Welcome back, everyone. Hope you've had a great week training dogs. We've had a week where it's gone well, and a couple of days where it's gone to hell, which is quite normal when we train the younger dogs. We have quite a few young dogs under training right now, and we always try and challenge them a bit or try to push the envelope, and things go wrong. And that really doesn't matter to me as long as the dogs are learning something or I am learning something. Anyway, in our last video we discussed selecting a puppy or selecting a breeder, and some people wanted a bit more detail surrounding this. Today we're going to focus on selecting a breeder, which is most probably the most important thing you can do. If you select the right breeder, they will breed dogs that are healthy and conform to exterior standards, and also have all the attributes an HPR should have. And you need to understand that an HPR is not a specialist in anything. It does everything exceptionally well, but it is not a single skill dog. It is not a single purpose dog. These dogs are extremely special, and it's one of the reasons why I love the breed. There is nothing you cannot do with these dogs. Now, HPR, hunt, point and retrieve, with probably the greatest weight lying on the pointing side. A lot of these dogs are used exclusively for that, and I think you would be better off with an English breed. And you tend to see that in specific kennels or specific breeders, and I am by no means bashing any breeders or any kennels, where they choose lines that are extremely good on birds. Dogs that have that extra little bit when it comes to birds, and they tend to leave behind all the other crucial parts that makes an HPR so special. And it's for that reason that I say you would be better off with one of the English breeds. You cannot breed great bird finder with great bird finder if the basics are not there, if the will to retrieve is not there, if the will to track is not there. And you have kennels who do this. When we were in Croatia at the World Championships, there were not many hunting dogs at the World Championships. There were a lot of field trial dogs there. And you see it. You see them lose the intensity after 15-20 minutes. You see them lose focus after 15-20 minutes, because that is what they have been trained to do, that is what they have been bred to do. Spend the energy for 20-15 minutes. If you don't find anything, you're going back in the vehicle. And it's a pity, because some of these dogs are extremely gifted. But anyway, you also have breeders who breed hunting dogs. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you only breed hunting dogs, these dogs are hardly ever evaluated. So it's basically word of mouth. You believe in the dog, you believe in the dog's ability. There's nothing concrete, there are no documented or a paper trail to say what the qualities in the dogs are. The best kennels are always going to be the kennels that breed hunting dogs that also go field trials. Because the hunting dog needs so much more than a field trial dog does. And I say this in all honesty, a day's hunting equals a season's field trials. A dog that is pushed a whole day to work at a given standard, and that given standard is fully compliant with field trial standards. A dog that works to those standards the whole day, bird after bird, shot after shot, kilometer after kilometer, has proven itself. It is mentally stable, it is physically healthy, and it is an exceptional working dog. And the same can be said for these dogs when you take them retrieving, whether it's on land, water, or tracking. It makes no difference. We often have mixed days where we shoot a bag of ducks, pheasants, and we hunt small game. We hunt hare, fox, and the dogs hold together throughout the day. It's not that they don't make mistakes, but the mistakes are negligible. It's not something serious or the dog loses drive. So if you have all of these qualities in a kennel or within a breeder, that encompasses the HPR breeds, not just the bird side of it. A few questions that I would suggest you ask your breeder is always, what is their breeding strategy? What have you got planned for this litter? What do you see in this litter that is better than the female or the male that you are breeding? I like to say there needs to be a golden thread within your breeding. There needs to be specific lines that you look at, specific lines that you follow. It is normal for you to see specific lines performing at levels that other lines don't. So, in a sense, line breeding, but not to the extent that you kill the breed. And of course, all these matings and litters need to be approved by the kennel club, by the local kennel club. So inbreeding does not become a problem. Health issues do not become a problem. Another small detail that I like to look at and ask breeders is age of the male and age of the female. And to me, the age of the female is far more critical than the age of the male. I tend to breed my females at the age of 3 years, maybe a couple of months before, but the first litter is around 3 years old. Now, there are reasons for that. The dog is mature, the dog's body has settled, mentally, physically. The dog is not going to grow anymore. They might develop better skills and experience, but mentally and physically, the dog has settled down. So I'm not going to take anything away from the dog's ability or body, which is the most important thing. We want healthy dogs, we want healthy litters, which doesn't happen if you breed dogs too often. If you breed every 12 months, every 16 months, and you take several litters in a row, then you're not breeding healthy dogs. And then you're not breeding to develop the breed, which is, to me, a cardinal sin. The reason I breed a dog only twice is because in my experience, in my opinion, you have genetic decay. As the dog ages, the quality of genetics degrade. The drive, the hunt deteriorates as the dog gets older. So bitches that are 7, 8 years old that get bred do not have the same drive. They do not have the same ability to pass the genetic drive down to the litter as they would when they were 5 years old or 4 or 3 years old. And I firmly believe there is genetic decay as the dog ages, and it is more prevalent in the females than it is in the males. Males tend to hold it slightly longer, but they also develop later. So to me, critical question, age of the male, age of the female. If both dogs are around 7 years old, that to me is a no-no, especially on the female side. The male side I can still understand, and they can still be accepted. Another question I like to ask is the pre and post heat curve in a bitch. Now, to me, the pre and post heat curve is the performance level of a bitch before she goes into heat, the performance level during her heat, and the amount of time it takes for her to come back to her pre-heat performance level. Why is that important? What does it matter? As a hunter, it matters. It is extremely important. It is like a dog that is prone to false pregnancy. Every 60 days after heat, the dog goes into false pregnancy. The problem lies in our season that is 6 or 7 months that we can hunt. Now, if a bitch has a performance curve or recovery curve that is within 50 or 60 days, that is a very long time in a hunting season. Especially if you take it over 7 months, because she is going to be either coming into heat or going into heat again within that period. And then you lose 60 hunting days, a dog that doesn't perform. And anybody that tells me their females perform at the same level do not know their dogs. Because I can tell you from experience, they lose drive, anything between 25 to 30%. They lose prey drive. They do not want to retrieve predatory game like foxes, cats, etc. Not that we retrieve cats anymore. So, as a hunter, if a dog loses that drive and I can't use her, I lose hunting days. As a field trialer, I use field trial days. So to me, that is a very important question to ask them. Now, in our kennel, we have a pre and post heat recovery curve that lies between 30 and 45 days. Normal. Some bitches are quicker, some bitches take slightly longer to recover. Important to know, because the hormones and the shifts within the female is going to make it difficult to work with her. Some of them just have no energy. They become extremely low. The dog just doesn't want to work. So, getting back to that, those are the questions you need to ask a breeder. What are your objectives with this litter? Is there any specific extra thing you want to breed into the dog? Is there anything specific you want in this litter that you don't see in your dogs? Or is it just another mating to maintain the standard? And there's nothing wrong with maintaining the standard. Some of the best breeding material are, I won't say standard females, but I will say average females. Some of them have the greatest ability to pass on genetics of the male, where your stronger bitches, it's not so easy. Sometimes they do that, sometimes they don't do that. Their genetics dominate. And also comes back to the age of the bitch. The older the bitch, the less the chances are that her genetics will dominate, and the greater the chances are that the male's genetics will dominate. The younger the bitch and the more dominant the bitch, I tend to find that their genetics dominate. So if you're looking at a balance within the litter, it's not always going to be that easy. And it comes back to where we say you can stick your hand in the puppy box and pick up any puppy and it's going to be a good dog. Unfortunately, not true. I have now looked at statistics, I've looked at my own breeding, I've looked at others' breeding, and I can tell you the difference between, in the same litter, if you have 10 puppies in the same litter, the difference between the strongest dog and the weakest dog within the litter can be astronomical. It can be huge. As a breeder, I want the very best, but the very best breeding dog may not be the strongest dog as a puppy. It may not be the most gifted dog that is the best dog to breed. And obviously the dog that is less gifted or least gifted out of all the dogs could still be quality breeding material. But it's never going to be within the top 3 or 4 or 5% of dogs on field trials. And there's nothing wrong with that. As I said before, you need average dogs. It is important that we still breed average dogs. And as long as the dog is biddable, has all the qualities that you need, there's nothing wrong with that. If I say the weakest dog within the litter or the weakest puppy within the litter, it does not mean it is a weak dog within the breed. We are looking at a very particular set of puppies, and the weakest puppy within that litter might still be an exceptional dog within the breed. And that is what a breeder should aim for. You might have 6 extremely strong dogs, and you might have 4 dogs that are less gifted than their siblings. As long as those 4 dogs are still exceptional or conform and a little bit more to the standard and run within specific parameters, you are going in the right direction. I, for instance, would like a dog with a little bit more style. So we've chosen a Continental to breed with. But I know from experience that if it's a litter of 10, I'll be lucky to have 2 dogs with a Continental style. I'll have 4 dogs that are fair in their style, and I'll have 4 dogs that are more towards the Scandinavian side. Not that the Scandinavian side doesn't have good style, it's just that the Continentals have far greater or better style. Small things make the difference. Small details are important. So I hope you guys have found this informative. In our next clip, we will cover selecting a puppy. And not just selecting the puppy, but looking at the specific details, how the dog finds birds, how the dog works before selecting a breeder and a puppy, because that is just as vital. Not all dogs are created equal. Certain dogs have the ability to find birds where no others can. Certain dogs have the ability to just shift a gear, and they have the mindset to compete, not against the other dog. We run brace here. They don't compete against the other dog. They compete against the bird. They want to find the bird. And it's in the way that they find the bird, in the way that they work the bird, that those small details make all the difference in the end. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.